Last week you were asking about whether the Antichrist could be Jewish. Yeah. And I just happened to come across a video done recently by Jack Hibbs, and he addresses that issue. So let's just take a listen to it. I'm just going to listen to a few minutes of it, not the whole thing.
Trump the Antichrist, all this stuff. Uh, in California here, a lot of people, I'm not kidding when I say this. In fact, people asked me this last night at a service. They said, isn't Gavin Newsom the Antichrist? And everybody started laughing. I mean, everybody started laughing, and for good reason. The Antichrist is going to be an incredibly brilliant political player. He's going to have policy. He's going to have plans. Daniel tells us that the Antichrist will deceive the world by peace and prosperity for the first 3.5 years. So Gavin Newsom may have an impressive height. He's a tall guy. He's got awesome hair. Gavin Newsom sounds like Batman, which I think is very cool. He should play Batman. But then he'd have to stop playing King. I don't know how that would work out. But no, Gavin Newsom's not the Antichrist. The Antichrist is going to be dangerously persuasive, cunning. Again, the book of Daniel tells us that he's going to be a man of intrigue. He'll be able to solve. The word in Hebrew implies that he will be able to solve puzzles. That is interesting because the New Testament Gospels in the Olivet Discourse, Jesus tells us that the world will be in a state of perplexity with no way out. That's when the Antichrist comes on the scene and answers the economic and political woes of the world, and people will love him. If you were with us last time, you heard how much they love him. They love him. They'll love him so much they worshipped him. We're picking it up, you guys. Revelation chapter 13. And again, remember, everybody, you're never able ever to understand the book of Revelation unless you read the book of Daniel first. Please get that in your skin. If somebody wants to talk to you about the book of Revelation and tell you how it's all going to come down, and they don't know the book of Daniel, don't even listen to them. They're wasting your time, and they're wasting air. Verse 13, we pick it up. He performs great signs so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men. This is the deception of the false prophet. Remember, there's beast number one, the Antichrist. He's a man. Then there's beast number two, who arises out of the earth. By the way, I should have mentioned this last time. The first beast, Mr. Antichrist, he rises out of the sea. The sea in the Hebrew mind is the sea of humanity. In the Hebrew mind, the sea refers to the Gentile nations. Think of that. Think that through for a moment. Will the Jews be accepting a Muslim Antichrist? I don't think so. Will the Jews be receiving a Jewish Messiah? A false Christ? It's possible, but it seems as though he'll be a very savvy Gentile. Maybe he's got Jewish blood in him. I don't know, but it's enough to know that he will not regard the God of his fathers. That is not a Muslim statement. That's not familiar among the Gentiles. That kind of trends more toward the Jewish mind of thinking, that the Antichrist will not regard the God of his fathers. So I personally believe that he is somewhat of a Gentile with some sort of Jewish access. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. So what that says is we don't know for sure. But he's definitely not a Muslim. He can't be Muslim. No Jew would ever enter into an agreement with a Muslim. And it's possible that he has some Jewish blood, which kind of got to what uh, Wanda was saying last week. That was her position. Maybe he has some Jewish blood. So we just don't know what the answer is. All we know is that when he comes, he is going to so deceive the world that they're going to fall right behind him. So, in fact, pardon me?
That's Jack Hibbs,
Jack
Pastor Jack
Hibbs.
Hibbs.
Jack Hibbs is, he's often referred to as the country's pastor. Is, if you want, he's got several, if you look up Jack
Real life.
Hibbs' real life, I think it's real life or
Yep,
real
That's
time,
it.
one of
Real
those.
life. Real
He
life.
has several videos out there that address all of these issues. He's very good. He's a little entertaining, so he's worth listening to. In fact, I saw him on Fox News the other night. He was on, so he's
Wow.
pretty well known. And he gave the invocation at a congressional joint session of Congress a couple of years ago. Took a lot of heat because he invoked the name of Jesus, which is not something that
They
he did.
like.
He didn't apologize for it, which was a good thing. So, so that we start out with that. Yeah. Okay, turn your Bibles to Revelation chapter 18. I'm going to address one more topic, yet one more that it's just you just can't make this stuff up. And in Revelation 18, we get a picture of what I will call at this point literal Babylon that will exist during the tribulation. Many people think that that's where Antichrist will stage. That's where his home headquarters will be in literal Babylon. In chapter 17, we see a picture of spiritual Babylon, which is going to be a false religious system under the leadership of the false prophet. If you go back to what Jack just read in Revelation 13, we see the Antichrist who comes up out of the sea. And as Jack said, that generally represents Gentile nations. We see the sea like that. You see a reference to it in Revelation 12. It means Gentile nations. So Antichrist is going to arise out of uh, the revived Roman Empire. What was the Roman Empire that fell probably somewhere in Europe or possibly Constantinople, because ultimately the Roman Empire uh, was divided into two regions, Constantinople and Europe and the Mediterranean area and so forth. So probably going to come out of the revived Roman Empire, which is going to be one of the 10 regions that will exist during that period of time. Remember, we read in Daniel that 10 horns are going to arise. 10 horns means 10 leaders. And if it's interesting, you go back to 1972, I think it is or so, under the leadership of Klaus Schwab, he had the Club of Rome create a new world map. And that world map consisted of 10 regions. Of 10 regions, that's a significant part. So they've been calling for 10 regions, which is consistent with what we read about in so many places in Daniel and Revelation. But 17, which is not really what I want to talk about tonight, is spiritual Babylon. You see reference to terms like Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and of abominations of the earth. So during the tribulation, not only is there going to be an antichrist system, government, political system, etc., but there's also going to be a false religious system under this guy, the false prophet. So he is the one that will ultimately have the image of the Antichrist built and placed in the Holy of Holies. It will talk. It will probably, by that time, AI may be reach the point where the Antichrist's own consciousness can be uploaded to that image. It's going to be very real, and the world's going to be expected to worship it. And if they don't, that's when we get into the inability to buy or sell. So, but then we get to Revelation 18, and I'm going to show a video in a bit of a pretty amazing project that is underway in Iraq, roughly 300 miles south of where Babylon is located. And it fits so perfectly with what we're going to read here. But let's just go through um, uh, Revelation 18, or at least parts of it, that talk about this. This is literal. Whereas 17 talks about spiritual Babylon, this false religious system. 18 talks about literal Babylon, a real place, a city. And interestingly, we trace Babylon all the way back to uh, Genesis, when you had the Tower of Babel and so on and so forth, which is basically the home of false religion, paganism, demon worship, etc. Always has been and will be a very evil place. So the three points we need to understand about chapter 18 is number one, Babylon is spiritually evil, and it will be spiritually evil during the tribulation. So what we read about here is what's going to occur during the tribulation. Right now, Babylon is not is not a notorious place to be. It's going to be it's going to be a literal city, and the nations of the world are going to be actively engaged in trade. It's going to be a hotbed of commerce, a huge place of trade. So, what we read here in Revelation 18, after this, I saw another angel coming down from heaven. We don't know who this angel is. He's obviously a very powerful angel. Could be Gabriel, who's usually a messenger, but he had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his splendor. With a mighty voice he shouted. So he's telling us, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. So now he's referring to the fall of what will be literal Babylon. And again, if this is the staging area for Antichrist, a lot of people think it will be. Uh, Time will tell on that. It's a haunt, and this is where we get into the spiritual aspects of every impure spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable animal. In other words, they're describing a place that's going to be evil, unclean, demonically inspired, satanic, and so forth. For all the nations. So remember that when we get to Revelation, it's global. It's not just one area, but all nations are going to be impacted. That's why you have this 10 regions. It's going to encompass the whole globe. All nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. If you went back to the book of Hosea, Hosea uh, is told by God to marry a prostitute, to be engaged to, basically, it's a reference to a false religious system, to a religious system that is false and turns people astray. So prostitution, which we read about in 17, in uncleanness, generally refers to false religious systems, or a system that places other beliefs above God. For all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. The kings of the earth committed adultery with her, which just simply means that the kings of the earth, the leaders of these 10 regions, are going to be, they're not going to be believers. They're going to be into all kinds of satanic rituals and so forth. And the merchants, the traders of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxury. So it's going to be a place, something's going to cause Babylon, literally Babylon, to be a commercial powerhouse. Then I heard another voice from heaven, come out of her, my people. So this angel is telling Christians, which would be tribulation Christians, saints, people that come to Christ during the tribulations, to get out of there. Telling another voice from heaven, come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins. This place is going to be so evil that Christians at that time shouldn't even be around it or near it, so that you will not receive any of her plagues. So for your own sake, get out of Babylon. It's going to be that easy, that evil. For her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. Give back to her as she is given, and pay back double for what she has done. Pour her a double portion of her own cup. Give her as much torment and grief as the glory and luxury she gave herself. In her heart she boasts, I sit enthroned as a queen. I am not a widow, I will never mourn. So this is a quote directly out of the book of Isaiah, chapter 17, Isaiah verse 7 and 8. Now let's just go back there and read that really quickly, because it helps us, I think, to see what how where this evil comes from. In Isaiah chapter 47, beginning in verse 7, we read, You said, I am forever the eternal queen. This is a another prophecy about the fall of Babylon, which in this context in the book of Isaiah actually has a double meaning. It talks about the fall of Babylon during that time period, but also refers to a future fall of Babylon, which is what we're reading about in Revelation 18. But you did not consider these things or reflect on what might happen, speaking about Babylon. Now then, listen, you lovers of pleasure, lounging in your security, not God's security, but your own security, and saying to yourself, I am, and there is none beside me, which what we just read in Revelation 18. I will never be a widow or suffer the loss of children. So it's an arrogant statement. I don't need God. I'm never going to be widowed. I'm never going to have to worry about anything. But then we'll go over to Isaiah 47:11. This is the warning. This is not just a warning, but it's a promise that is confirmed in what we're reading in Revelation 18. Disaster will come upon you, and you will not know how to conjure it away. It's speaking about Babylon. A calamity will fall upon you that you cannot ward off with a ransom. A catastrophe you cannot foresee will suddenly come upon you, which is what we read about as well in Revelation 18. So the future part of that prophecy has not yet been fulfilled, nor has the Revelation 18. So now go back to Revelation 18 and in verse 8, therefore in one day her plagues will overtake her, death, mourning, and famine. She will be consumed by fire, for mighty is the Lord God who judges her. God has some really tough judgment in store for Babylon. Then in verse 9, when the kings of the earth who committed adultery with her and shared her luxury, by that it means it's going to be become a very wealthy place. This is in what we know today to be Iraq. And the future of this particular area is one of great wealth and so forth. Her shared her luxury, see the smoke of her burning, they will weep and mourn. Terrified at her torment, they will stand far off and cry. Woe to you, great city, you mighty city of Babylon. In 1 hour, your doom has come. In other words, it's going to be very sudden. What did we just read in Isaiah? It's going to happen very suddenly. So this is what is going to happen with this very evil place, probably closer to the end of the tribulation. So the merchants on the earth will weep and mourn because over her, because no one buys their cargo anymore. So it's going to be a trading center. Cargoes of gold, silver, precious stones, pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, scarlet cloth, every sort of citron wood and articles of every kind made of ivory, costly woods, bronze, iron, marble. In other words, it's going to trade everything. Cargoes of cinnamon and spice, of incense, myrrh and frankincense, of wine and olive oil. They're going to be trading in everything. They will say, the fruit you longed for is gone from you. All your luxury and splendor have vanished, never to be recovered. The merchants who sold these things and gained their wealth from her will stand far off. They're going to be able to see it probably burning off in the distance. And a lot of times, I think we see a little bit later here that they'll be on ships. Woe to you, great city, dressed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, and glittering with gold, precious stones. So God's not the center. All their materialism is what makes them great and think that they're beyond reproach. In 1 hour, such great wealth has been brought to ruin. Every sea captain, now bear that in mind because I'm going to show a video in just a moment. Every sea captain, so there's going to be people on cargo ships likely, and travel by ship. The sailors, all who earn their living from the sea, will stand far off. When they see the smoke of her burning, they will exclaim, was there ever a city like this great city? It's not there right now. There's nothing even close to that in Babylon right now. So I'm just going to stop there, but I wanted to show a quick video. Actually, it's probably a few minutes anyway, of something pretty amazing that you don't read about that's actually currently taking place in Iraq. It's fits so perfectly, and it's amazing that we don't hear much about it. But it's what's called the FAW pier that's being built in Iraq. So tell me, based on what we just read, if we can see where this may just be one more stage setting thing. So I'll let this video speak for.
Imagine a place so small, yet so powerful, it could change the way the world trades forever. A place that
This
could
is
challenge
real.
one of the most iconic
Listen.
shipping routes in history, the Suez Canal. Sounds impossible, right? Well, what if I told you this place already exists, right here in Iraq? Welcome to the Al-Faw Peninsula, a tiny strip of land with a massive vision. This is Iraq's only coastline, and it's about to become the heart of one of the most ambitious
ship?
infrastructure projects on the
ship?
planet. But here's the question. Can this project really compete with the Suez Canal? And more importantly, can it transform Iraq into a global trade superpower? We're talking about a port so big, it's being built on an artificial island, a dry canal that stretches 2,000 kilometers connecting the Persian Gulf to Turkey. And engineering solutions so innovative, they're rewriting the rules of modern infrastructure. But here's the catch. This isn't just about ships and cargo. This is about Iraq's future, and maybe even the future of global trade. So, are you ready to dive into the story of how a war-torn nation is betting everything on a project that could change the world? Stick around, because this is the Al-Faw Peninsula like you've never seen it before. Let's get started.
Unthinkable bill.
Let's start with why the Al-Faw Peninsula is such a big deal. This small piece of land in southern Iraq is Iraq's only coastline, and it sits right at the edge of the Persian Gulf, one of the most important waterways in the world. For decades, Iraq's access to global trade has been limited, but that's about to change. The Iraqi government has a bold plan to turn Al-Faw into a global trade hub, and they're spending billions to make it happen. The centerpiece of this plan is the Al-Faw Grand Port, one of the largest infrastructure projects in the world. This isn't just any port. It's being built on an artificial island with container terminals that can handle the biggest ships on the planet. We're talking about Neo-Panamax ships, which can carry over 14,000 containers each. To put that into perspective, if you lined up all those containers, they'd stretch longer than 85 kilometers. That's how massive this project is. But building something this big isn't easy or cheap. The estimated cost of the Al-Faw Grand Port is around $7 billion, and that's just for the first phase. The project is being developed in stages, with the final goal of handling 99 million tons of cargo every year. That's enough to make it one of the top 10 ports in the world. Now, let's talk about the challenges. Building a port of this scale in a country like Iraq isn't just about money. It's about overcoming decades of conflict, limited resources, and tough geography. For example, the port needs to be protected from something called scour, which is when the force of massive ships erodes the seabed. To solve this, engineers are using concrete mattresses instead of traditional rock armor. These mattresses are faster to install, cheaper, and just as effective. Another huge challenge is dredging, digging out the seabed to create deep water channels for ships. Over 100 million cubic meters of sand and sediment need to be moved to make this happen. And to protect the port from waves and sediment buildup, Iraq is building the world's longest breakwater, stretching over 14 kilometers. But the Al-Faw Grand Port is just one part of the story. The real game changer is the Iraq Development Road, also known as the Dry Canal. This is a 2,000-kilometer network of highways and railways that will connect Al-Faw to Turkey, passing through major Iraqi cities like Basra, Baghdad, and Mosul. The cost? Another $17 billion. Why is this so important? Because it creates a land-based alternative to the Suez Canal. Right now, ships traveling between Asia and Europe have to go through the Suez Canal, which is often overcrowded and faces risks like piracy. The Dry Canal could cut shipping times by up to 10 days, making it a faster and safer option for many traders. The project has already seen some major milestones. In 2020, Iraq signed agreements with international companies to start construction. And in 2023, the first phase of the port began operations. But there's still a long way to go. The entire project is expected to take 10 to 15 years to complete, and it will require not just money, but also stability and cooperation in a region that's seen decades of conflict. So, what's the big picture here? If successful, the Al-Faw Grand Port and the Iraq Development Road could transform Iraq from a war-torn nation into a global trade powerhouse. It could create thousands of jobs, attract billions in foreign investment, and give Iraq a seat at the table in the world of international trade. But here's the thing. This isn't just about Iraq. It's about creating a new route that could change how the world trades. And that's why the Al-Faw Peninsula is more than just a project. It's a vision for the future. Now let's talk about what this means for the future of Al-Faw, Iraq, and the world. Stay with me, because this is where things get even more interesting. So, what's next for the Al-Faw Peninsula and Iraq's ambitious vision? Let's dive in. Once fully completed, the Al-Faw Grand Port will be a massive hub with container terminals, industrial zones, and urban developments. It's not just a port, it's a blueprint for Iraq's economic future, designed to handle millions of tons of cargo annually and compete with the world's busiest ports. But the real game changer is the Iraq Development Road, or the Dry Canal. This 2,000-kilometer network of highways and railways will connect Al-Faw to Turkey, offering a land-based alternative to the Suez Canal. Why does this matter? Because the Suez Canal, while iconic, faces issues like overcrowding and piracy. The Dry Canal could cut shipping times by up to 10 days, making it a faster, safer option for global trade. The benefits don't stop there. This project could open up new opportunities for landlocked countries in the region, turning Iraq into a central trade hub for the Middle East and beyond. It's a chance for Iraq to diversify its economy, create thousands of jobs, and attract billions in foreign investment. But let's be real, this isn't going to be easy. The project comes with a $24 billion price tag, and Iraq still faces challenges like political instability and security risks. Competing with the Suez Canal, which has over 150 years of history, won't be simple either. Yet, the potential rewards are enormous. If successful, this project could transform Iraq from a war-torn nation into a global trade powerhouse. It's a bold vision, but one that could reshape the future of global trade. So, will the Alpha Peninsula succeed? Only time will tell. But one thing's clear. This project is a symbol of hope and ambition. It's a reminder that even the biggest dreams can become reality with determination and innovation. What do you think? Can Iraq's megaport challenge the Suez Canal? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
So what do you think? Is that just a coincidence? Why would they build that there?
Have they started building it?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
years
it's
ago.
underway. Yeah,
It's gonna take 15, 20 years to
for the
do.
whole thing. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that says necessarily has to be
The
done.
Lord is gonna come soon.
Pardon me?
Isn't the Lord supposed to come soon before?
Yeah, but that doesn't,
No.
I don't think that necessarily means the whole thing has to be done,
Okay.
but they'll have this port ready relatively soon.
But
The
that fits
road,
in with what the Bible says about Babylon.
yeah. I mean, if that's not, to me, mind blowing, I don't know what
Yeah,
is.
it's-
Yeah, it's
Yes.
about 300 miles away. And I think it fits with this prophecy that talks about the seamen and so forth and the trade via ships, is that that's the only port in Iraq, right?
Babylon's on a river, right?
I think so. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, that land
But-
road showed the map, showed like it was going right through that
Yeah.
to Babylon.
It's not that far away. So, to me, the fact that they're building this in Iraq, nobody ever hears about it, and it just lines up so perfectly.
Where do they get the money to build this? If the country
Foreign
is so poor?
foreign investors largely,
Well,
because remember, see, they said in the video it's going to affect global trade.
mm,
So I know the United States has donated or has contributed, and the European, yeah, this is a huge deal. Yeah.
With what's been going on with the Suez Canal, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it makes perfect sense because it's what the Bible said. I mean, I
But I'm
heard
just
about
with
this about a year
recent
ago.
history with what's happening with the Suez Canal, when that was blocked off, then you had the Yemen's, with the shipping, it just that circumvents all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Comments? To me,
So
that's kind of,
Constantinople was not Babylon?
pardon me?
Constantinople isn't Babylon, or was it?
Constantinople was primarily Turkey, and it probably included it. I'm not sure. I'd have to look. Wow. It's definitely the Roman Empire controlled Babylon as it did Israel at one time. So, okay, so that's that. A couple of quick articles to bring us up to date on a few other things. I know the last couple of weeks I've been talking about really what's going on behind the scenes with all these protests and everything. And I just happened to come across another article, and it's kind of long. I'm just going to read a few highlights about what we're seeing with uh, this attempt to bring down the United States with all of these protests and everything. And it starts out, what you are witnessing unfold across the United States right now is not organic protest, spontaneous outrage, or grassroots activism. Talking about what we've seen in Minneapolis and in LA and New York and so forth. It's a coordinated insurgency operating openly, methodically, and deliberately. And the proof is found in the enemy's own training manuals, internal documents, and communication. So, in other words, what we're seeing with these protests and everything is coordinated. And it's coordinated, it's all Marxist, Leninist, socialist, communist, Maoist organizations whose goal is to bring down this country with the idea ultimately that we move into this one world global system. So I've been listening to Billy Crone a lot lately. He's got a new book out on what's going on with the current administration. And he basically says that many of us in the Christian community, when Trump was voted in, thought, phew, I've got a 4-year vacation. But as he pointed out, Bible prophecy today is being fulfilled 4 to 5 times faster than it was under the past administration. We saw a lot happen under the past administration. When you consider all the AI issues and everything that's going on, it's really coming together. Um, the groups behind the ongoing ICE disruptions, riots, protests, and coordinated chaos are following the playbook of Gene Sharp, Gene Sharp, the architect of so-called, quote, non-violent civil resistance, a term that has nothing to do with peace and everything to do with weaponized unrest. The objective is simple: place the President of the United States in a lose-lose scenario. If President Trump enforces the law, particularly immigration law, he is portrayed through propaganda as a dictator and an authoritarian. We've heard that over and over and over again. If he backs down, the insurgents win operational control and advance their agenda. Either way, the system is stressed, public confidence is eroded, and the narrative warfare intensifies. This is the very definition of dilemma demonstration, a tactic explicitly outlined in the internal literature of these groups. The ICE raids are not the end game; they are the provocation. The goal is to interfere with enforcement through chaos, obstruction, stalking of agents, vehicle blockages, and information warfare. If enforcement continues, they flood media and social platforms with weaponized imagery and false narratives. If enforcement stops, they declare victory and escalate further. The tactic only works if the ruler, in this case President Trump, can be framed as authoritarian. That framing is the central psychological operation. What the public sees, Antifa foot soldiers, riots, street protests, is merely a tip of the vast infrastructure. According to Millie Weaver's investigative findings, these operations involve embedded federal employees, intelligence community members with security clearances, Harvard affiliated academics, lawyers, educators, tech workers, social media operators, NGOs funded by dark money networks, foreign influence activists. This is not fringe activism. This is institutional subversion. And I told you last week I was reading this book by Peter Schweitzer, and that's what he's talking about throughout this entire book, relative to migration, which is a separate issue. But relative to that, it's all about subversion. All this migration stuff, immigration stuff we saw coming from Mexico and over the border and the Chinese, it's all part of a subversive efforts, again, to bring us down. It's coming from the United States is under attack from so many different areas. Now, granted, I think we're all very satisfied with what Trump is doing, but God's plan is not going to stop. It's not as though he's going to say, "Well, Donald Trump's in office. I'm just going to hold off for a while." It's going to continue to progress. One of the most alarming revelations discussed on the program involved documents hosted on CryptPad, CryptPad, distributed by groups such as Choose Democracy, Beautiful Trouble, and operatives connected to the Gene Sharp proteges Maria Stephan and Erica Chenoweth. I'm not sure who these people are. These documents assign roles across society: federal workers, educators, lawyers, tech influencers, students, and instruct them how to sabotage the United States from within. So it's like that fifth huh?
Fifth wave, I think it is.
Yeah, it's not fifth wave, it's something like that. But it's like this, it's the country's under attack from the north, the south, the east, and west, and there's also this fifth column
That's it.
that is operating within the country. Among tactics explicitly outlined, creating fake DHS and government social media accounts to spread disinformation. It's like this thing right now with the government shutdown, shutting down all of DHS. It's nothing to do with ICE. It's all about their agenda, even to the point where they could care less about air traffic controllers and FEMA and all these other organizations. Conducting strategic leaks to shield real leakers. Disrupting U.S. military recruitment and aptitude tests. Now, I don't think they're winning on that one. From what I understand, military recruitment's way up. Sabotaging E-Verify by intentionally falsifying data, flooding immigration systems. This is organized criminal conspiracy. And it goes on and on and on with more stuff. Just, I think, more evidence that what we're seeing is all part of this master plan to bring us down, which has been going on. And you have the uh, World Economic Forum that met a couple of weeks ago in Davos, Switzerland.
Why can't they declare them terrorist organizations like they did with Antifa, you know?
They did. Well, the administration did.
Yes,
Oh,
the administration.
oh, the
Why
the
can't they-
protesters.
Why can't they designate them as terrorist organizations?
I don't
they
know.
did
Yeah,
with Antifa.
yeah. Well, Antifa's definitely is a terrorist organization, but the protesters, I don't believe, have been. Trump has called them domestic terrorists, but boy, that just riles up the left when he does that. If you think about it, so I don't know if they've been officially declared. They should be. I agree with you. They should be. So, so at any rate, what we're watching this chaos is uh, just getting out of control. But it's all by design. It's all by plan. Now, as I was mentioned, the World Economic Forum, um, a lot going on with the economy. One of the new leaders now that Klaus Schwab has backed down of the World Economic Forum, or is retired, if you will, is Larry Fink. People know who Larry Fink is? Larry Fink's the head of BlackRock, which is the largest investment company in the world. It controls $10 trillion. And he's a globalist. He's one of the elites. He's a technocrat. And he right up there with Larry Ellison and Peter Thiel and all these other, even Elon Musk. Interesting about Elon Musk, by the way. There's a movement called the technocracy movement, which began in the 30s. Technocracy is a desired new form of government. And it originated with, it's basically taking technocracy or technology and forming a new system other than democracy. And it's under the control of what they call technocrats, which are what we would call the elites, the ultra wealthy, the Gates and the Musks. These are the real ones at the top that are really controlling this thing. And this whole movement started in the 30s. And I'll be the first to tell you, I don't fully understand it. Trying to get my arms around it, but I don't fully understand it. It started with the Rockefellers, and then one of the founders, whose name I had, but it escapes me, of this technocratic movement, had a daughter by the name of May, M-A-E, and she was a big-time technocrat. May had a son whose name was Elon Musk. And so we have this connection of Elon Musk back to the founders of this technocracy movement that's going on. Technocracy is very, very insidious, very dangerous. And we'll talk more about it if I can ever fully understand it. Um, it has at its core a desire to reduce the population and to create um, transhumanists. In other words, to supplement our physical being with biochips and all kinds of things. And of course, we have Trump or Musk that has the Neuralink companies, which is where they will insert something into the brain that will help people with. I mean, these things all have good plans, but you have people like Noah Harari, who was very active in the in the World Economic Forum. He's like their philosophical guru, if you will. And he comes out and talks about that they'll no longer be just people, they'll be useless people and people who have been transformed, and promising that ultimately they're going to be able to take people's consciousness and somehow have that consciousness loaded up into an avatar or maybe some kind uh, of uh, of robot or something, and that consciousness will live forever. So they're basically promising, eternal life. Ultimately, it's all part of AI. So we have Musk connected to this whole technocracy movement, and he's a big player in it. So, pardon me?
His father?
I'd have to look. I'm not real sure. I think I have heard something about, but don't quote me on that. Certainly, his grandfather did. Yeah,
Somebody, generation.
yeah.
Started PayPal. Started PayPal
Started
Oh,
PayPal
really?
along with whom?
for 150 million.
Wow.
Along with,
An evil person?
or I don't know if he's an evil person, but you know, this guy's a
Worst of the tech people. I mean,
what's
Why
that?
does Trump have
the
him?
worst of the tech people. The other
No.
ones want, because what he wants open AI so that it can be built by everyone. Like, and the other AI people want it closed so they can control it.
Yeah,
So I do know that. I mean, but the other people are, I think, even worse.
yeah.
So I don't know.
So I mean, you have this conspiracy, and so we're just gonna have to wait and see how it all plays out. But it's all happening. Here's an article, real quick. Big Brother grid control. From where you drive to what you post. So don't think that they're not already developing means of surveilling us and watching us, and ultimately they're going to control us. I know what I was going to say about Larry Fink. He was sitting on this panel talking about how valuable tokenization is going to become. You know what tokenization is? Tokenization is where all your money and land, real estate, everything is given a value. It has a tokenized, what they call a tokenized value. And obviously, if they go to this tokenization plan and they tokenize, for example, the value of all the land in the United States, or maybe all the land in the world, the ones that are going to buy up and control that are the mega rich, the elites. And so he's talking about tokenization. Another thing I started reading a little bit about yesterday are stable coins. Stable coins is it's a programmable system. Well, let's just say, for example, uh, something happens with the financial system. You have $100 in the bank. You can take that $100 and buy a stable coin and use that as your means of purchasing power, trading, buying, selling, and so forth. The problem with it is, from what I can see, it's programmable, which means that authorities will be able to know what you do with it. But we don't hear much right now about central bank digital currency, although that is still being developed globally. What the Trump administration is moving more toward is stable coins. And again, I'm not an expert on this, but it's tied into crypto and all of these other things. Again, the idea of doing away with cash and coming up with digital identification, digital currency, so that we can all, or everybody that's on the face of the earth, can be controlled. Again, setting the stage for the beast system, the antichrist system, which is, if antichrist is going to control the world, he needs AI to do it. Not enough people on the face of the earth to track and monitor what people are doing. So we're seeing all this being set up. It's little pieces here, little pieces there. It's kind of like eating an elephant. You know how you eat an elephant?
No.
One bite at a time. That's the way you eat an elephant. You don't just sit down and carve it and share it with your family. Sooner or later, if you eat it one bite at a time, that elephant's going to be gone. It's called incrementalism. So, at any rate, For decades, an insidious Big Brother control grid has been growing and evolving all around us. And now artificial intelligence is allowing authorities to do things they never been able to do before. Shockingly, that includes monitoring where we drive so that those with, quote, suspicious travel patterns can be detained. I don't want to live in a minority report society where the government is arresting people simply because an algorithm has flagged their travel patterns. But that is precisely what the Border Patrol's Predictive Intelligence Program is doing. That's what it's called, Predictive Intelligence Program. The U.S. Border Patrol is monitoring, I didn't know this, millions of American drivers nationwide in a secretive program to identify and detain people whose travel patterns it deems suspicious. The Associated Press would find. Now, some people would say, well, that's not a bad thing. It can prevent auto accidents and help to be safety, but it's just one more example of how they're monitoring and watching us. Suddenly, drivers find themselves pulled over, often for reasons cited such as speeding, no turn signals, or even dangling an air freshener blocking the view. They are then aggressively questioned and searched with no inkling that the roads they drove put them on law enforcement's radar. The AP, Associated Press, spoke to 8 former officials that have direct knowledge of this program. All of them confirmed that it is happening. Border Patrol explained that it can legally operate anywhere in the United States. So they're not just controlling the borders, but anywhere. It defended its use of license plate readers, stating that the program is governed by a stringent, multi-layered policy framework, as well as federal law and constitutional protections to ensure the technology is applied reasonably, responsibly, and for clearly defined purposes. That's what they say about everything, but then gets in the wrong hands, and then it's a problem. Reading that should send a chill up your spine. Apparently, this program began about a decade ago, and they have been going to great lengths to keep it secret. If the government is trying to keep a domestic surveillance program secret, that's a major red flag. Obviously, they know what they're doing. They know that they're doing something the general population would not like. So why are they doing it? We're also being told the government is ramping up its social media surveillance with new AI-driven tools. This AI thing is getting out of control. The federal agency is ramping up its social media surveillance with new AI-driven software contracts and considering hiring 24/7 teams of contractors assigned to scouring various database and platforms like Facebook, TikTok, and creating dossiers on users. When most of us post stuff on social media, we never imagine that the feds might be spying us. But that's exactly what's taking place. So I won't read the rest of it, but just more of the same. If you post an article on social media, they will see that too. Big Brother is watching, and if something you post gets flagged, you could potentially get into trouble. If we do not stand up and object now, they will just keep pushing the envelope further. Eventually, we could end up just like China. In China, there is nowhere to hide. The Chinese government uses artificial intelligence to monitor everyone and everything, and even the smallest infringement can affect your social credit score. A good social credit score is necessary to fully participate in all aspects of life in China. Does it sound a little bit like being unable to buy or sell? What the Chinese have created is the exact opposite of a free society. And that is where we are heading to if we continue to go down the road that we are on now. So it's just happening everywhere. All right. Questions on that?
Well, they can't be doing the license plate surveillance for safety because look at all the truck drivers.
Yeah, that's right.
Illegal licensing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so they're not using it for for good.
No,
Maybe it
that's-
needs a little bit more work because you can still kidnap an old lady in the middle of the night and spend 3 weeks trying to find her.
Terrible. Oh, it makes me so sad. But
yeah.
Do they know anything yet? No, not really.
Nope. That's what I've heard.
No.
Which I suspected the DNA is a big bust. It's not the glove didn't show anything, and it's not in the database. And the DNA they found in the house, it came back without a hit. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
Mm.
All right. I want to get back to Israel a little bit. Let's turn back. Let's turn our Bibles to Zechariah chapter 12. We've read this many times, but I want to kind of go through this in a little more detail because it's so relevant. In Zechariah 12, we read a prophecy, the word of the Lord concerning Israel. The Lord who stretches out the heavens, who lays the foundation of the earth, who forms the human spirit within a person declares. So that's the first thing to pay attention to, is that this prophecy comes directly from the Lord. It's God Himself that's speaking through, and God speaks all prophecy, but He has in this particular verse, He wants to make sure, I believe, that people understand that this prophecy is coming from the one who created everything. And it goes on to say, I'm going to make Jerusalem a cup that sends all the surrounding peoples reeling. Judah will be besieged as well as Jerusalem. So the cup of trembling, what that is it's a cup is another phrase for judgment. So God is going to judge the nations that are going to try to move Jerusalem. And if you read this same phrase in the New Living Translation, which I think is the only one, but it's a translation, it says, instead of what we read here, it says, the NLT, a New Living Translation says, I will make Jerusalem like an intoxicating drink that makes the nearby nations stagger and and send their armies. So basically what it's saying here is that Jerusalem is going to become almost like an addiction, almost like an intoxicating beverage that gets everybody all around all worked up and just so totally focused on it. It says that the world, look at the world drinking all the intoxicating propaganda that we hear about and read about regarding Israel. It's making people stagger. It's literally like this one translation says, it's making people stagger. People hate Israel and they don't even know why they hate them. How do you explain it? They don't even know why they hate them. It's like they have no control over the venom they keep spewing. I hear these people talking about Zionism. AOC came out the other day and had to repeat that the Jews created or caused genocide in Palestine or in Gaza rather. There's no such thing, But for some reason, she either so hates Israel or she's just too stupid to do her homework, and she comes out with this nonsense about Israel. And she took quite a bit of heat for what she said over there. It was in Munich, and she went over the idea that she was going to try to get on the world stage, but she kind of made a fool out of herself if you saw it in the news. Um, Zechariah 12 hasn't been fulfilled in its entirety, but we can literally see this prophecy coming into play. I'm going to make Jerusalem a cup that sends all the surrounding peoples reeling. Judah will be besieged or surrounded, as well as Jerusalem. On that day, this is from the time Zechariah wrote this, when all nations of the earth are gathered against her, I will make Jerusalem an immovable rock for all the nations. All who try to move it will injure themselves. And this is a reference to God's judgment. You have all these nations, think about the whole world thinking about Jerusalem. It's on the minds of everybody all the time. And God, people, what they don't realize is that God is in control. And anybody that messes around with Jerusalem, whether it's Saudi Arabia or Qatar or the Palestinian Authority or European Union or Turkey, they're all destined to be judged by God. That rock is immovable. It's such that it's kind of slippery, and when they grab onto it, it gets away from them, but they can't move it, and then they get injured because it's so heavy. And that's really a discussion about what's going to do, what God's going to do. On that day, I will strike every horse with panic. So, first of all, if you go back up here, it says in verse 3, this is a key end times verse where it says, on that day, which is the tribulation period. And I think we're seeing the stage being set for this now as well, with all the anti Semitism and everything that's going on. When all the nations of the earth are gathered against her. Doesn't say some of the nations, doesn't say all the nations except the United States. It says all the nations will come against her. And you know, over the last couple of weeks, we read articles about Netanyahu saying we're going to have to go and do all this on our own. And right now, there's a great relationship between Trump and Netanyahu. I think it's fantastic. Netanyahu's been to the White House 7 times in the last year, which is great. So they have a great relationship. But, and I mentioned this before, my fear is that because of the influence of nations like Qatar and Saudi Arabia, all these very wealthy nations, that somehow Trump could be turned away. So at any rate, uh, I will keep a watchful eye. So people need to remember this. I'm going to strike every horse with panic and its rider with madness, declares the Lord. I will keep a watchful eye over Judah. Well, I will blind all the horses of the nations. God's in charge. Then the clans of Judah will say in their hearts, the people of Jerusalem are strong because the Lord God Almighty is strong. On that day, and I think this is a reference to right now when we get to uh, chapter verse 6. On that day, I will make the clans of Judah like a fire pot in a wood pile, like a flaming torch among sheaves. They will consume all the surrounding peoples right and left, but Jerusalem will remain intact in her place. Think about what's going on there over the last 4 or 5 years. You know, they've defeated Hamas for the most part. They've attacked and pretty much neutralized Iran with our help, of course. They've taken out the Houthis. They've defeated much of Hezbollah. And by the way, the economy in Israel right now is like number 4 in the world. Their GDP is like 4%. The shekel is going up in value. They're doing great. They're doing great because God is with them. You know, I listened to Tom Hughes the other day. He made a very interesting point that before October 7th, when the Hamas attacked southern Israel, senior members in the IDF and their military were very concerned that with the attitude of young people, that they wouldn't be able to fight. They wouldn't have the wherewithal to fight. Well, how wrong they were, because now they're saying that what's happened with young people is no different than what happened in 73 or 67 or 49 or any of the prior wars. They said literally, young people's minds have changed. Their hearts, the desires have changed. And it's because of the young people, the reservists and so forth that have been called up that they've been as successful as they have. Something happened to the Jewish troops, the young people that everybody thought were just too lazy or they didn't care or had other interests. Hasn't happened. It's been amazing. And as he said, the God was making them into warriors like David. And we read on verse 8, on that day the Lord will shield those who live in Jerusalem. You know, it's when Israel flew into Iran. They had how many F-35s and whatever flew in there. By all rights, not all of those planes should have come back. They shouldn't have, but every one returned. Not only that, but if you remember the time when Iran sent 300 rockets and missiles into Israel, they took a lot of them out with the Iron Dome. But the rabbis and the military leaders are saying that wasn't all that happened. These things were just falling out of the air. Not one single bit of damage from any of those 300 missiles in Israel. And God is making them like David. And I think that's what's going on right now. That's what we're seeing. Whereas what we read earlier in 1, 2, and 3 is more of a reference to what's going to happen during the tribulation. But what we're seeing now is just an amazing effort on the part of the Israelis. And we really haven't seen anything like that. On that day, the Lord will shield those who live in Jerusalem. And he's done that. I mean, he's done that. And the feeblest among them will be like David. David was, of course, read the Old Testament, what was he? He's a mighty warrior, but he always went into battle with God, God leading the way. You read about these battles and throughout the Old Testament, and God is there with them. He take out as many as 100,000 of the, not during David's time, but during the time of the Assyrians, wiped out 100,000 of their soldiers overnight, by himself. So he was always with them. And the house of David will be like God. The house of David, a reference to Israel, like the angel of the Lord going before them, which is what we read throughout the rest of the Old Testament. The angel of the Lord, which I believe is the pre-incarnate Jesus Christ. I think that's what we see here in Zechariah chapter 8. Be like the angel of the Lord going before them. On that day, I will set out to destroy all the nations that attack Jerusalem. If only the nations of the world, if only the UN, if only Germany, if only Great Britain, if only France, if only the United States, depending on the administration in charge, if only they knew that. But you still sticking your finger in God's eye, which is what they're doing. Remember, the Jews are the apple of God's eye. We read that earlier in Zechariah. Stick your finger in God's eye and go against his people. There's a price to be paid. So I believe we're have seen, and continue to see the fulfillment of verses 4 and following. I believe that we're going to see 1, 2, and 3 already in play. I mean, currently already Jerusalem's a cup of trembling. Let's call it a burdensome stone right now. That it's creating so much angst and trouble for the world. Exactly as God said would happen. And he also uses the term on that day, which is a reference to a time in the future. We're in that time period. We're watching all this stuff take place. So with that, I'll close. I was kind of hoping to get back into my study. Next week, we'll do that for real, but there's so much going on. When I try to prepare for these classes, these discussions, I probably spend half the time trying to figure what are you going to talk about. There's just so much that's going on. It's really hard to keep up. So I can't guarantee what might appear before next week, but I just thought the story about the port in Iraq fits so perfectly with Revelation 18. I mean, what else could it be? Why would they take Iraq, war-torn Iraq? You don't even hear much about Iraq anymore. It's not in the news like it was when Saddam Hussein was there. But it's just God finds or decides that this is just he made the decision thousands of years ago to have Iraq or Babylon become this place of wealth, great wealth, and so forth. So, comments, questions?
me that, and I don't know if this is true, but they said that Israel, they used to have to fight in the war.
Yeah,
They all do.
right.
Is that true?
Yes, yes. They all have to serve in the military. And if they're called to battle, they go.
So
But
you're talking about their attitude.
right, I'm talking about their attitude, their desire.
Yeah.
No, but women go because somebody I know said that they knew a Jewish lady and she went, a girl,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
went, but they have to.
Yeah.
It's required. Girls and boys when they turn, I think it's 18, I think, they have to go in for either 4 or 5 years. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know families and children, states and they go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're a Jew and you live outside of Israel, you're technically a Jewish citizen. Yeah. Now that doesn't mean they're going to call them all up, but
They will go back.
yeah, it's this desire. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is that it's this innate desire that God has given them. When I say that their minds and their hearts and their souls have changed, it's God that's doing it in them. You go back just 5 years, and they had protests in the streets, and LBGT is a huge issue in Israel, but a lot of protests going on because of things like that. But the war has changed them. The war has changed them, and it's God that's done it. And he has throughout history. You can't explain the diaspora, the Jews being scattered throughout the four corners of the earth for over 2,000 years, 2,600, 2,700 years, essentially beginning around the Babylonian time and then scattered throughout the whole world. To the point in the 1800s, there were probably only 200,000 Jews living in what they then called Palestine. And you just can't, yet they never lost their identity. They never lost their heritage. They never lost their identity again because God promised to preserve and to protect them for all time. So next week we'll get a little into replacement theology and Zionism and hopefully clear the air on some of that nonsense that's going on. Yeah. Father, again, we thank you, Lord. Your word just amazes us. Just one thing after another that it just validates what we see and what we read about throughout your word. And we know that your word is inerrant, it's infallible, and Lord, we can fully trust it from cover to cover. Every word, every sentence, every yacht, every tittle is inspired by you. And Lord, we just marvel at your word. I mean, if you could spend our whole lives in deep, deep study of your word and still have new insights that you provide us. It's how sacred and how divine that book is, and we have it. We all have access to it, which is just a tremendous gift. We thank you for it. We thank you for Jesus who came and died for our sins. I pray for everyone here, Lord, those that are here in person, those that are listening online. Bring us back safely next week. And as we continue to look at your amazing plan, and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.